You have lost interest in accomplishing your goals. In the distant past, you were captivated by your goals and ambitions. Currently, everything looks to be a dream. Your occupation does not supply you with genuine happiness. Yes, you still have ambitions, but they currently look impossible. It appears as though the light within you is diminishing with each passing day. But why did this occur to begin with? And, most importantly, how can one reignite this inner fire? Loop of routine. For some, pornographic watching is a bad habit, while for others it is an addiction. Whether or not we feel pornography decreases our internal drive, we must accept that it is a huge source of enjoyment. We are all seeking enjoyment. We don't enjoy being uncomfortable or sad. Everyone is attempting to escape from it. Therefore, whether we are bored, angry, upset, or despondent, our thoughts search for anything that will make us feel better. The mind convinces us that pornography may make us feel better. It is an easy method to forget about our difficulties, despite the temporary nature of the rewards. Once we've experienced a negative feeling, we form a pattern to manage it. When we are in a foul mood, we seek immediate respite through pornography. The more we repeat this cycle, the more it becomes a habit and, eventually, an addiction in which you want to quit pornography but cannot. In other words, you get dependent on it. No one can be happy while incarcerated, and you are currently incarcerated in your own trap. Motivation originating from within. Have you ever experienced the pleasure of doing something that you could do for an extended period of time? This occurred when we were children. We used to enjoy activities such as drawing, singing, dancing, studying, and playing sports. This pleasure originates from inside. This joy is not based on anticipation, rather, it is derived from the action process. Only by executing an action can intrinsic motivation be experienced. The excitement or pleasure we experience while anticipating something or a future occurrence is not a basic motivation. In contrast, our own drive began to wane as time went. We begin to lose interest in things we formerly enjoyed, and we are frequently required to undertake duties we abhor. What happened to our inherent motivation? Let's see an illustration to learn how this works. Untamed is the spirit of a kid. His actions are guided by his intuition. His brilliance and vitality are much superior to ours. After a youngster is imprisoned and forbidden to do as they choose, the brilliant light begins to dim. As mentioned earlier, everyone is trapped by their negative behaviors. We don't want to view pornographic material, we don't want to waste time, and we want to develop in life. But we plan and do something else instead. It is the same daily. You will lose respect for yourself if you continue to behave in this manner. A person devoid of self-respect could never sustain discipline in his life. A person lacking discipline will never be able to live according to their desires. Clearly, all the dots are connected to our free will. Once we begin behaving in accordance with our own free will, our self-respect and inner motivation return. We overcome our pornographic addiction, and our lives begin to improve. Let's examine the scientific rationale behind our diminishing intrinsic motivation. Dopamine deficiency. Dopamine is responsible for the excitement you feel while ordering your favorite pizza, as well as the elation you have when contemplating your future self or completing your dream project. Our bodies create the neurotransmitter dopamine. The nervous system uses it to communicate between nerve cells. Dopamine is important in cognition, planning, and the discovery of new information. It is sometimes referred to as the incentive hormone and the pleasure hormone. In other words, the brain releases dopamine when it anticipates a reward. When the reward is substantial, the brain produces a great deal of dopamine, which induces feelings of excitement and elation. However, what types of significant incentives are you referring to? Concerning our existence, the stakes are consistently high. Sexual activity is essential to human life. Keeping our genes alive is essential. Thus, the delight and thrill connected with this reward are exceptionally high. On the other side, pornography exploits this innate motivation. These pleasures are enhanced by the addition of imagination, novelty, and other aspects that stimulate the release of dopamine in the brain. You may acquire anything with a simple click of the mouse. In this dimension, your wildest dreams are realized. As a result, your subconscious feels that the pornographic world is 1,000 times superior than the actual world. In reaction to the same sort of information, however, dopamine does not always release the same amount. When knowledge is new and unknown, a big amount of dopamine is produced due to the uncertainty. Alternatively said, novelty has a significant influence in the release of dopamine. The same pornographic film will not provide the same level of enjoyment. You are seeking something new, and due to high-speed internet, there is always something fresh to discover in our world. Also, as a result, you participate in more extreme pornography because your previous ideas and thoughts are no longer gratifying. Your normal dopamine release is interrupted by these intense dopamine peaks, and you lose interest in things. This condition is known as a dopamine deficit. Checking for a deficit in dopamine: if something rises, it will inevitably collapse at some point. In the event of a dopamine surge, there is no exception. After experiencing a dopamine high, you will feel depressed and uninspired for no apparent reason. This is what occurs when the dopamine level lowers. Regular employment does not trigger the brain to produce happy neurotransmitters. However, you can assess whether or not your dopamine levels are balanced. Obviously, your life motivation is low at the moment, which is why you're reading this article, but it's not sufficient. Other aspects of your life, such as guilt and remorse, may be demotivating you. However, if it is related to a genuine pornographic addiction, you may test yourself. Determine your level of motivation by going 21 days without seeing pornography. If you are depressed or more depressed than normal, you already have a pornographic addiction. It might be a symptom of a dopamine shortage if you're feeling unusually driven. Throughout these 3 weeks, there will be a range of emotions and degrees of motivation. Every day, record how you feel and how much you want to see pornographic material again. I understand how difficult it is, but if you don't watch it in 21 days, you won't lose anything. If you've been seeing pornography for an extended period of time, it might take up to 15 to 18 months for your dopamine levels to return to normal. This does not imply that you will be unmotivated during these months. On the other side, you will experience a spectrum of feelings. It will be favorable some days and unfavorable others. Discovering pleasure in the little things in our minds, we are constantly in a rush to get someplace as quickly as possible. We continue to run for the rest of our lives, only to end up where we began many years ago. This makes sense to you, correct? We dislike boredom as if it were the deadliest enemy on earth. Even the restroom is inaccessible without our phones. To continue to feel better, we continue to seek stimulation. In actuality, the more stimulation you seek in life, the harder it is to find genuine happiness. At the end of the day or your life, you will always experience emptiness. Why? Because the pleasure you seek always exists in the present, while stimulation lies in the future. It is not uncommon to experience boredom, anxiety, anger, or negative thoughts. You need not ignore them or substitute excitement or pleasure for them. When unhappy or depressed, it is unnecessary to play video games, consume alcohol, or see pornographic material. Because you cannot constantly pursue happiness in life, you may accept your sadness and embrace your anxiety. If you want a happy existence, you must experience a broad range of emotions. Avoiding or diverting oneself from negative emotions will compound the situation, not solve it. Occasionally, though, it is permissible to divert or ignore unpleasant emotions. It becomes problematic when it becomes a habit. When you confront your emotions instead of avoiding them, you grow stronger and happier. When bored, close your eyes and experience ennui. Close your eyes and let your melancholy to wash over you when you are sad. Because genuine happiness may be found in negative feelings as well. Your life's beliefs and goals are intricately related to your happiness and joy. However, when our brains are overloaded with stimuli or when our levels of happy hormones rise, we forget our objectives and aspirations. We crave instant pleasure because we seek it daily. Stop hurrying and be present in the moment, and you'll notice how wonderful the little things really are. You'll be thankful for the air you're breathing, appreciate the sunset, smile at your present self, and find your life's purpose. Avoiding suffering and pursuing pleasure. If you pay attention, you will see that your brain is continuously pursuing pleasure while fighting to avoid suffering. When you are unaware of your decisions, as most of us are most of the time, you automatically develop habits. Later in life, these behaviors will distance you further from a happy existence, since they constantly seek pleasure and avoid suffering. Why do you watch pornographic material? Since it gives you pleasure, it enables you to avoid real-world sorrow or to flee from it. However, we all see that this is a trap. The more we seek pleasure, the more we repeat a certain behavior, which finally becomes a lifelong habit. Nobody desires to experience agony for no apparent reason. We want to avoid experiencing pain as much as possible since it is unpleasant and makes us miserable. Therefore, you will always know where to find happiness, regardless of whether you are depressed, anxious about the future, or have recently suffered a significant financial loss. Since it gives you pleasure, it enables you to avoid real-world sorrow or to flee from it. However, we all see that this is a trap. The more we seek pleasure, the more we repeat a certain behavior, which finally becomes a lifelong habit. Nobody desires to experience agony for no apparent reason. We want to avoid experiencing pain as much as possible since it is unpleasant and makes us miserable. Therefore, you will always know where to find happiness, regardless of whether you are depressed, anxious about the future, or have recently suffered a significant financial loss. You use alcohol, video games, cigarettes, or pornography as a coping mechanism. Even if these hobbies bring instantaneous enjoyment, you will ultimately have to cope with actual problems. There are times when leaning on instant satisfaction is beneficial to one's mental health. When you don't want to repeat a procedure but do it nonetheless, things start to become ugly. Loneliness and reigniting your passion. I must inform you that stopping or altering your brain's pattern will not be as easy as you believe. Your determination, on the other hand, is unparalleled. It possesses enormous power much beyond your wildest dreams. It requires simply a small bit of self-assurance. You use alcohol, video games, cigarettes, or pornography as a coping mechanism. Even if these hobbies bring instantaneous enjoyment, you will ultimately have to cope with actual problems. There are times when leaning on instant satisfaction is beneficial to one's mental health. When you don't want to repeat a procedure but do it nonetheless, things start to become ugly. Loneliness and reigniting your passion. I must inform you that stopping or altering your brain's pattern will not be as easy as you believe. Your determination, on the other hand, is unparalleled. It possesses enormous power much beyond your wildest dreams. When attempting to permanently give up pornography or other addictions, certain things will occur. You will have boredom, negative thoughts as if something is wrong, and an increase in tension and anxiety for a period of time. You will feel awful about yourself and believe that NoFap was a mistake the majority of the time. Despite the accomplishments you have already achieved, there will be no further development. Accept your emotions in these circumstances rather than avoiding them. Close your eyes and feel the boredom if you are really bored. If you are concerned or agitated, close your eyes and experience the worry and tension. You must bear in mind that these are psychological ploys employed by your subconscious to tempt you to return to your old habits. When the brain is unable to obtain the pleasure it desires, it will seek out alternative possibilities. Here is where you will reignite your passion for your career. At this point, you start to feel more alive. However, in order to reach this stage, it is necessary to experience all human emotions. Because pain is a part of life, you cannot rely solely on happy feelings. Instead of attempting to avoid it, accept it. You must recognize that you are not alone on this path. In the aspirations of a better future, a large number of individuals work diligently each day to break their harmful behaviors. It is okay to have failed a few times. Continue seeking out fresh information and resources until you have completely overcome your pornography addiction. Nothing worthwhile in life is free. You must pay for it. How much are you willing to spend for the quality of life you desire?